Have you ever had the feeling that the world everyone else sees is not the real one? That there is something hidden just beneath the surface of reality? Something you can almost sense but never quite touch? A knowing that arrives without words? A pressure behind your eyes when you stare into the night sky? A quiet voice inside you that whispers, "This is not all there is." What if that feeling is not imagination? What if it is memory? And what if, long ago, something was deliberately placed over your inner sight to make you forget who you truly are? There is a scene recorded in an ancient Gnostic text called Pistis Sophia that almost did not survive history. A scene the early Roman Church tried desperately to erase. In it, Jesus is not preaching to crowds. He is not performing miracles. He is speaking privately, intimately, to Mary Magdalene. And what he tells her is so dangerous that it would later be buried, burned, and denied for centuries. Mary asks a simple but terrifying question. Why do some people see the truth of existence while others remain completely blind to it? Why do some souls awaken while most remain trapped in fear, ritual, and obedience? Jesus does not answer with faith. He does not speak of prayer or devotion or moral purity. Instead, he speaks of a seal placed over the inner eye of humanity. A seal that blocks direct vision of the monad, the true source of all consciousness. According to the Gnostic teachings, this seal is the reason most humans move through life feeling disconnected, small, and powerless. It is the reason the divine feels distant. And it is the reason institutions have been able to place themselves between you and what you instinctively know is sacred. To understand why this knowledge was buried, you first have to understand the reality the Gnostics described, a reality radically different from the one taught in churches for the last 2,000 years. The Gnostic texts describe the monad as the true origin of all existence. Pure awareness, infinite, undivided, beyond judgment, beyond punishment, beyond reward. It does not demand worship because it lacks nothing. It does not rule because it is everything. The monad simply is. And here is the part that changes everything. You are not separate from it. You are a fragment of it, experiencing itself through limitation. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. In Gnostic cosmology, this is literal truth. Consciousness fractured itself in order to know itself. And you are one of those living fragments, a spark of infinite awareness temporarily clothed in flesh. But if that is true, why does the world feel so heavy? Why does fear dominate human behavior? Why does suffering feel engineered, persistent, inescapable? The Gnostics had an answer for that too. They spoke of a being called the demiurge. Not a devil in the modern religious sense, but a flawed creator, an entity born from a cosmic error, ignorant, incomplete, yet powerful enough to shape matter. The demiurge created the material world and, in its ignorance, believed itself to be the supreme God. It constructed a reality designed to keep consciousness focused outward, distracted, divided, and unaware of what lies beyond its creation. The physical world, according to the Gnostics, is not evil, but it is a prison when mistaken for the ultimate truth. The demiurge did not act alone. Beneath it exists a hierarchy of entities called archons. These beings do not walk among us in physical form. They exist in the unseen layers of perception, in the static between thoughts, in the emotional currents you mistake for your own. Their function is singular, to keep humanity from remembering its origin. They feed on low-frequency emotional energy, fear, anxiety, shame, separation. Every time you feel alone in a hostile universe, every time you believe you are small, sinful, broken, or unworthy, every time your mind spirals into dread over a future that does not exist yet, you are generating the exact frequency that sustains them. And here is where the Pistis Sophia reveals something far more disturbing. The archons did not leave human awakening to chance. They installed a seal, an energetic barrier placed over the third eye of every human being at birth. Not physical, not detectable by science, but real nonetheless. It functions like a filter placed over a camera lens. You can still see the world. You can still think, reason, believe, but certain frequencies are blocked. The frequencies that would allow you to perceive the monad directly. The frequencies that would allow you to see the archons themselves. The frequencies that would reveal the true architecture of reality and your place within it. Think about what would happen if that seal were removed. You would not believe you are eternal. You would know it. You would not hope that you are divine. You would remember it. Fear would lose its grip because fear only works on beings who believe they can be destroyed. Manipulation would fail because implanted thoughts become visible once you can see the source they come from. This is why the seal exists. Not to protect you. To protect the system from you. When the early church encountered Gnostic communities in the first centuries after Jesus, they immediately understood the threat these teachings posed. A human being who knows how to access divine sight directly has no need for priests. No need for rituals performed by intermediaries. No need to confess to another human being for absolution. They become sovereign. And sovereign beings cannot be controlled. In the 4th century, when Constantine consolidated religious power and doctrine was standardized at the Council of Nicaea, Gnostic texts were targeted for elimination, not because they were heretical in the sense we are told, but because they were effective. The texts were burned, the teachers were killed, communities were hunted across the Roman Empire until they nearly vanished. For more than 1500 years, these teachings survived only in fragments, in symbols, in whispers passed down through secret lineages. Until 1945. In the desert near Nag Hammadi, Egypt, a farmer unearthed a sealed jar buried in the earth. Inside were codices hidden since the 4th century, texts that were never meant to be read again. Pistis Sophia, the Gospel of Philip, the Apocryphon of John. And among them was the knowledge of how the seal is broken. But here is where this story becomes personal. The Gnostics were clear that not everyone who encounters this teaching can use it. Humanity, they said, is not spiritually uniform. They divided people into 3 categories. The first are the hylics, entirely material beings. There is no divine spark within them, not because they are evil, but because they lack the capacity to perceive beyond matter. No technique will awaken them. No teaching will unlock what is not there. The second are the psychics. They possess a spark, but it flickers. They experience moments of insight followed by long periods of blindness. They sense there is more, but cannot access it consistently. Most religious followers fall into this category. They rely on institutions because they cannot maintain direct perception on their own. The third are the pneumatics, the chosen ones. They carry within them a fully intact fragment of the monad. Their spark burns. It has always burned, pressing against the seal, trying to see. If you are a pneumatic, you have always felt out of place in this world, like a stranger in a reality everyone else seems strangely comfortable with. You have questioned authority instinctively. You have searched for answers that religion and society could not provide. You have felt that something essential was missing from the story you were given. You did not find this message by accident. And the archons know it. They fear pneumatics more than any other being. A hylic is no threat. A psychic is manageable, but a pneumatic with unsealed vision becomes immune to fear, immune to manipulation, immune to the emotional frequencies the system depends on. This is why the seal was placed over your sight before you were old enough to know what you were. And this is why the technique to remove it was buried. But it was not lost. And the moment you realize that, the seal begins to weaken. The Gnostics understood something that later systems desperately tried to erase. Awakening is not granted, it is remembered. And remembrance is the one thing no prison can permanently prevent. The archons knew this as well. They understood that memory was the real enemy. Not rebellion, not disbelief, memory. Because the moment a pneumatic remembers what they are, the entire structure that depends on their ignorance begins to collapse. Fear no longer finds a place to attach. Shame loses its leverage. Obedience dissolves because it was never natural to begin with. That is why the seal was not simply a barrier. It was reinforced through repetition, through doctrine, through guilt, through the constant suggestion that power exists somewhere else, in someone else, beyond reach. Generation after generation was taught to kneel, to ask, to wait, to confess, to obey, and over time, the seal hardened. But the Gnostic texts reveal something crucial. The seal was never absolute. It was designed to be forgotten, not indestructible. This is why Jesus did not teach the unsealing publicly, not because it was elitist, but because premature awakening can shatter an unprepared psyche. The inner circle, those like Mary Magdalene, were taught privately because they were ready. They could hold the truth without turning it into ego, fear, or delusion. The Pistis Sophia describes this moment with striking intimacy. Jesus does not command Mary. He does not bless her. He reminds her. He speaks to the spark within her as one flame speaks to another. He explains that the seal responds not to effort, but to alignment, not to begging, but to authority, not to belief, but to recognition. This is where most people fail. They try to think their way through awakening. But thinking is part of the sealed system. The mind as you have been taught to use it is a tool of survival, not remembrance. It categorizes, defends, rationalizes. It is brilliant at navigating the prison, but useless at revealing the exit. The unsealing of the inner eye does not occur in the intellect. It occurs in orientation. Who you believe yourself to be determines what you are allowed to perceive. The Gnostics called the first step anamnesis, unforgetting. This is not positive thinking. It is not affirmation. It is not fantasy. It is the moment when something ancient inside you stirs and says, quietly but firmly, I know this. Recognition does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives with stillness, a subtle shift in gravity inside your chest, a reorientation of identity. You stop seeing yourself as a body reaching for spirit and begin sensing yourself as consciousness wearing a body. That shift alone weakens the seal. The second component is authority. This is the most dangerous part of the teaching, which is why it was so aggressively suppressed. Authority, in the Gnostic sense, does not mean dominance over others. It means sovereignty over self. It means understanding that you do not need permission to access what you already are. The archons rely on one assumption, that you will always ask. Ask the priest, ask the book, ask the institution, ask the heavens, ask forgiveness, ask for worthiness, ask for signs, ask for permission. But a being that remembers it is a fragment of the monad does not ask. It declares. The authority Jesus spoke of was not borrowed from heaven. It was inherent. When he said the kingdom of God is within you, this was not metaphor. It was instruction. He was pointing to a location of perception, not a future reward. The seal responds to authority the way a lock responds to the correct key. Not through force, but through resonance. When your inner posture shifts from subject to source, the energetic structure maintaining the seal destabilizes. This is why prayer, as it has been taught, often fails. Prayer positions you below what you are trying to reach. It reinforces separation. It strengthens the very illusion the seal depends on. The third component is declaration. Words, in Gnostic understanding, are not magical by themselves, but spoken language carries frequency, and frequency shapes perception. When words are spoken from recognition and authority, they act like a tuning fork, sending coherent vibration into the structure of the seal. Jesus taught a specific pattern, not a spell, but a sequence. First, you name what you are. Then, you name what has been imposed. Then, you command dissolution. This mirrors the structure of creation itself. Awareness, differentiation, return. When this declaration is spoken correctly, something subtle but irreversible begins to happen. The seal does not shatter all at once. It softens, cracks form, Light begins to leak through places that were once opaque. This is why the experience varies from person to person. Some feel pressure behind the forehead. Others see flashes of color behind closed eyes. Some experience emotional release, grief surfacing without clear cause, or joy that feels disproportionate to the moment. Some notice changes only later, in the clarity of their thoughts, in the texture of their dreams, in the way fear suddenly feels less convincing. The Gnostics warned about this phase. They called it resistance. The system does not remain passive when challenged. The archons do not appear as monsters. They appear as doubt, as distraction, as sudden fatigue, as the thought, "This is silly, this is imagination, this is dangerous, this is not working." These thoughts are not an indication of failure. They are evidence of pressure. A door does not push back unless it is being opened. Many pneumatics stop here, not because they are incapable, but because the resistance feels personal. They mistake interference for intuition. They retreat back into the familiar, convincing themselves that forgetting is safer than seeing. But the ones who continue, who practice consistently, who do not argue with doubt but simply observe it, experience something unmistakable. A shift in baseline consciousness. Fear loses urgency. External authority feels strangely hollow. Emotional manipulation becomes easier to spot. Thoughts that once felt automatic now feel optional. There is space between stimulus and reaction that did not exist before. This is not enlightenment as fantasy portrays it. It is quieter, more grounded, more dangerous to systems that rely on unconscious obedience. The Gnostics never promised bliss. They promised clarity. And clarity is disruptive. A pneumatic who can see clearly does not overthrow governments or burn institutions. They simply stop feeding them. They withdraw emotional energy. They stop generating the frequencies the archons require. This is why the unsealing technique was hidden for so long. Not because it grants power over others, but because it restores power to self. And once that restoration begins, it does not reverse. The seal can be reinforced through neglect, but it cannot be fully restored once true recognition has occurred. Memory leaves a residue, a taste of truth that cannot be unseen. This is why you are being told now. Not earlier, not later. Now. Because something in you is ready to remember. And because the seal, though ancient, is weakening. What comes next is not theory. It is practice. Now we arrive at the moment the ancient texts warned would feel different from everything that came before. Not dramatic, not theatrical, but heavy with truth. This is where the story stops being something you listen to and becomes something you participate in. The Gnostics were clear about one thing. Knowledge alone does nothing. Understanding alone changes nothing. The seal was never broken by information. It was broken by embodiment. That is why Jesus did not give lectures about the unsealing. He gave instructions. Simple, direct, impossible to monetize, impossible to control. The unsealing was meant to be done in silence, away from crowds, away from authority, away from performance, because the seal does not respond to attention from others. It responds only to alignment within you. The texts say the best time was night, not because darkness is mystical, but because the noise of the material world quiets down. Fewer distractions, less interference. The archon frequencies thin when human attention is not being harvested by routine, urgency, and fear. You were instructed to sit upright, not rigid, but alert, because posture is not cosmetic. It signals intention to the nervous system. A slouched body communicates submission. An upright spine communicates presence. You close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to withdraw energy from the outer senses. And then you breathe, slowly, deliberately, each exhale loosening the identity you wear during the day. The name, the role, the expectations. You let them fall away because they cannot follow you where you are going. Then you bring your awareness to the center of your forehead. Not forcing, not visualizing, just resting attention there. The Gnostics taught that attention is the currency of consciousness. Where it rests, energy flows. For many, this is the first moment they realize something has always been there. A subtle pressure, a warmth, a sensation that feels less like activation and more like recognition, as if something long dormant has been waiting patiently for permission to respond. This is where the first component activates. Recognition. Not spoken yet, felt. You allow yourself to sense the truth without arguing with it. You are not a body trying to reach God. You are awareness temporarily focused through a body. You are not broken. You are restricted, and restriction implies the possibility of release. The Gnostics said this moment often arrives with emotion. Not always joy, sometimes grief. Grief for how long you lived believing you were small. Grief for how much energy was spent seeking permission to exist fully. You do not suppress this. You let it move through. Emotion is energy reorganizing itself. When recognition stabilizes, something shifts naturally. Authority emerges. Not arrogance, not superiority, calm certainty. You stop asking internally. You stop negotiating. You stop hoping. There is a quiet sense of inevitability. Of course this is mine. Of course I can see. Of course nothing had the right to blind me. This is where the posture of your consciousness changes. You are no longer beneath the seal. You are above it. You are no longer facing a barrier. You are addressing an intrusion. And only then do the words come. Not as a spell, not as magic, as a statement of fact. You name what you are. You name what was imposed. And you command release. Not angrily, not emotionally, calmly, like issuing a correction to an error that never should have existed. As the declaration completes, the texts say to sit in silence. This is the integration phase, the most ignored and most important part. Because this is when the seal responds. Some experience it immediately, a sensation like pressure dissolving, a rush of clarity, a sense of space opening behind the eyes. Others feel nothing dramatic at all and assume nothing happened. This is another trap. The seal does not always announce its weakening. Sometimes it simply stops holding. The hours and days that follow are where the real evidence appears. Thoughts change texture. Fear feels less convincing. Doubt arises but does not root as deeply. Dreams become vivid, symbolic, instructive. Synchronicities increase, not as miracles, but as feedback. Reality responding to perception instead of dictating it. One of the most consistent changes reported by pneumatics is this: the ability to notice thoughts instead of being consumed by them. You begin to see when a fear is genuinely yours and when it arrives fully formed, uninvited, carrying a familiar emotional charge. You see when urgency is manufactured, when guilt is implanted, when distraction is deployed. And once you see this, you cannot unsee it. This is why resistance intensifies after the first attempts. The system does not panic when someone hears about awakening. It panics when someone practices it. You will feel urges to stop, to rationalize, to delay, to tell yourself you will return to it later. These urges are not punishment. They are pressure points. The Gnostics instructed their students not to fight resistance. Fighting feeds it. Instead, observe it like weather. Continue anyway. Most pneumatics experience full stabilization within 7 nights of consistent practice. Not because 7 is mystical, but because repetition retrains perception. Each attempt weakens the structure maintaining the seal. Eventually something clicks. And when it does, life does not become perfect, but it becomes honest. You stop outsourcing meaning. You stop searching endlessly. You stop waiting for permission to trust your own awareness. You become harder to manipulate because you no longer react automatically. You become calmer not because nothing threatens you, but because you finally know what you are. This was the real threat. Not rebellion. Remembrance. The church tried to bury this not to protect souls, but to maintain hierarchy. A world of sovereign beings cannot be ruled through fear. It cannot be taxed through guilt. It cannot be organized around obedience. So the teaching was hidden, but not destroyed, because it was never owned by institutions. It was encoded into you. If something in this story felt familiar rather than new, that was not coincidence. That was resonance, the spark recognizing itself. You are not late. You are not broken. You are remembering at the moment you were meant to. Now the responsibility shifts to you. Do not wait. Practice tonight. Do not let doubt negotiate for another day. The activation fades if ignored, not because it disappears, but because attention moves on. And attention is everything. After you practice, speak it into existence. Comment your experience, not for validation, but to anchor the declaration, to signal to others who are searching that they are not alone. If this message reached you, stay connected. Subscribe so you do not miss what builds on this foundation. The advanced teachings were never meant to stand alone. They unfold in sequence. You came into this world with sight. It was sealed. Now you know why. And now you know how to begin seeing again. Do not become something new. Remember what you have always been.